for me. It's not like he's
Right.
looking at me going, "Oh my
Right.
God, I can't believe you." No, he's like, "Oh, Because so here's the real situation that you have to look at. It's like when you're 50, I'm 51. My family thinks about who's going to take care of you when you get older. That's what they think.
Right.
But that's the whole point of having families. When people made families, it was because you wanted to bring kids into this world because the kids can look after the parents when the parents get older. It's a
Mm-hmm.
whole society, type of thing. So when you're somebody who made a choice not to go that route, you have to be thinking, who is going to take care of me when I'm older? You have to
Mm-hmm.
be. So you have to think about things a little bit differently than somebody who has a family would think about things.
Right. So what's your answer? I say your nieces and nephews.
Yeah, that's what I said. I told my brother, I said, I'm going to take your kids.
That's
They don't care about you. I'm
You're
the cool
obviously their
aunt.
favorite aunt. That's
They want to come live with me. Are you crazy?
see.
And he's like, stop it. He goes, I'm serious. He just gets nervous for me.
Aw. Well,
That's all.
bless
He
his
cares,
heart.
you know what I
Yep.
mean?
You took care of
And
him.
that's
He just
nice.
wants to take care of you as a brother. That's nice. That is
Yes, and
nice.
he's my brother.
Right.
And I'm like, we're a very big family, so there's lots of people around, but you do have to be thinking that, my mom is probably not going to be around when I'm 80, because then she would be in her hundreds.
Right.
So, my dad's probably not going to be around because he'll be in his hundreds. So, and my brother, statistically, men die before women, so he might be gone.
Right.
You just don't know. But I'm
Right.
just saying, I appreciate the care. But again, so you can look at the decisions that people make with the scars that you have
Mm-hmm.
can be life altering.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And the decisions that I made early on were life altering decisions. And a lot of times you don't even know you're making them.
Right. Right.
You can make decisions. A lot of times people make decisions in their 20s and they think, oh, I'm going to go back to that. You don't realize it's life altering.
Right. You
You're
can't
not
go
going to
back.
go back to that.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're not going back to that. But at the time, you don't know that.
And all the should haves, would haves, could haves don't matter
There
at
you
all.
go.
At all.
I know. I told my dad, I said one time when I was younger, I said, my goal in life is not to have any regrets. And my dad said, what an arrogant statement that is. That's almost implying that you'll never make a mistake.
You don't
And
have
he
to
said,
regret a mistake necessarily.
Well, it's just, he said, Stacey, all you want, just try to live a life to where your regrets are few.
Ah.
I thought, yeah, okay, I can take that.
So do you have any regrets?
Not staying in New York.
Yeah.
That's my biggest regret, was not staying in New York.
And you can't change that. And you know what?
Nope.
Thinking about it, let me think if I have any. I do have one major regret. I was working in a really nice country club, and I headed up their weight room and aerobics program in Palm Springs, California. And I left there because my now ex-husband he thought it was too hot. But if I would have stayed there, I could have really come up with some written programs, and a lot of good things would have happened. That's my one regret. Okay, so we can have one.
And everybody's got one.
Yep, I guess so.
But you don't know it. But you just don't know it. You make these decisions when you're younger because you think your whole life when you're younger is you think you've got all the time in the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But my favorite line and my favorite thing that somebody said to me, and I said this: life happens on the way to your dreams.
It does, doesn't it?
It does. Life happens on the way to your dreams, and you just don't know it. It's like you think, and then you start getting into your 40s. I always say everybody's like, everybody's like, oh, they're having a midlife crisis. I said, no, that's not what happens when you get into your 40s. What happens when you get into your 40s is you start really realizing all the things that you didn't do.
Right. That's the truth.
That's why you see people making all the major shifts in their 40s. It's like, you know what? I don't have much time.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's absolutely. That's
Half
why
my
the
life
car.
is half my life is over.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to. And that's why I don't call it a midlife crisis. I call it a midlife adjustment. You start realizing, hey, I don't think I want to be here.
Right. Too bad.
Yeah. And that's a hard one because usually people get left behind. And that's where it gets kind of hard, is that when people make these major decisions, it's usually because they're leaving somebody behind.
Right.
And, it could be a friend, it could be a family member, it could be a marriage, it could be a relationships, but somebody's getting left behind because somebody needs to go in a different direction. And I always tell everybody, you've got one life to live on this planet. Make it count.
Yep.
Because if you get a do-over, you don't know.
Right. Right. Yes, I was listening to a CD today that said that same thing. If you are around somebody that doesn't make you happy or doesn't, and and it changes, your life can change and couples change and people change. And if I always thought that when I dated somebody or was married, if I'm happier with them than I would be by myself, then okay. But if it comes to the point where that's not true anymore, then we were there together for what we needed to be together for.
Well, one of the things once I heard Kevin Spacey was on 60 Minutes and they asked him, was he happy in life? And he said, happy is kind of an interesting word because it almost implies that you're supposed to be dancing around in the clouds. But he said, I am extremely content with my life. And I always think contentment might be a better word than happy, because a lot of times it's not possible to be happy every second of every day. Maybe it is. I don't know. But there are people but to be content and at peace with your life.
Right.
Says it speaks volumes. I mean, that just speaks that you're making all the right decisions. You're happy and content with where you're at, who you're with, what you're doing. I mean, it's not stressful.
Right. That's a really good point.
Yeah.
Yep. When you have to work at being content,
hard.
Right? Then what? Yeah,
then what?
That's a whole nother show.
And then what? You get exhausted.
Right.
And
then that's when you use your whole self up and there's nobody there replenishing it. And that's when you start losing yourself in relationships, in work, whatever. And that's when you turn to other things.
Well, and I also say when you're meeting, I mean, if we're talking about relationships, when you're meeting someone in the beginning, you're not really meeting them. You're meeting their representative, as Chris Rock likes to say.
Oh, I love that.
And, I know, I love it too, because it's actually kind of true. It's like, you don't want to meet you. You want to meet the person that you think you are. And, so you do all these great things, and then about, I don't know, halfway into the relationship, you're tired, you're exhausted, you don't want to keep up the facade anymore.
Your representative, I love
curtain
that.
The curtain starts coming down. I mean, it's like, what? And I just, all I tell my friends when they're in relationships is don't change the rules halfway into the game.
Right.
Because that's when you're in real trouble. It's one thing if it's just, okay, I get up and get his, I got up and got his drink a couple of times. But if you're getting up and getting his drink every time, and then all of a sudden, after he asked you to marry him, you're not getting him anything, then that's sort of like, wow, what's that all about?
Mm-hmm.
And that's just, that's not, I'm not saying that women should get up and get that's just sort of a metaphor, but you can't
it's the same thing. The man needs to get up and get your drink once in a while too. It's true both ways.
I mean, just be a human being,
right.
I mean, just, God, how hard is that?
And respect, treat each other with respect and kindness. And that seems to diminish sometimes in long-term relationships for some reason.
Yeah, actually it does, doesn't it?
Yeah, and then there goes the contentment and the security. That's a whole
Yes.
nother show.
That's a whole other show,
It
man. I mean, that's
is.
like, and that actually should be. I always think to myself, should I listen to somebody who's not married? That's why I never say anything. It's like, how do you have a successful marriage? Well, how successful is your marriage? Well, I'm not married. Well, then why would you listen to me? You know, I mean, like, I haven't got a clue. Like books, you know, it's like I always tell everybody, it's like, these successful couples write these books and all of a sudden they're divorced afterwards. It's like, why did you write a book?
Too much togetherness.
Yeah, I'm like, you know, I always say what I'm looking for is what my grandparents had.
Yeah.
And my grandfather, right before he passed away, the last 6 years of his life, he had Alzheimer's, and he didn't recognize anybody but my grandma.
Aw.
And my grandma would walk in the room. I don't think he knew that she was his wife, but he knew she was somebody because his eyes would light up when she'd come in.
Aww.
And that was true until the day he died.
Aww.
And I mean, he didn't recognize me, my brother. I mean, he loved us, okay? But he had 56 years with my grandma, so he knew something. And I just always say, I mean, the way that they were with each other, they were true partners. And I grew up with them in the 1970s when, I mean, it just, my grandma worked. My grandfather got off work earlier, so he'd pick us up and take us over to their house, and he would make our dinner for us and make sure we had our baths. And, you know, he was the primary caregiver.
Aww.
How unheard of is that?
Yes. That's so precious.
But they had a true commitment, partnership. We had so much fun with them. I mean, I was so spoiled. I mean, I really was. I was so spoiled as a kid on seeing the relationships and how they should be.
Right.
That it's like, that's just not good enough. That doesn't measure up to my scale of things for me to say yes and walk down the aisle and be a we with you.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I always told my dad he spoiled me when I got divorced the first time. I said, you spoiled me. I think that men should treat women like you treat mom. And I've not had that.
Yeah. You know, and it's just, I don't know where I like I said, I mean, I'm lucky. I have a lot of friends around me, have very, very successful marriages, and it, you know, I'm happy for them. It's like I said, I just never found it. But I'm not sure that if that guy came along, I would have even recognized it because I was never wanting to get married.
Right.
So I'm not sure I was ever even open. I don't know if I was ever even open to it. So
I think we should have another show. I think we should have a show about relationships. Okay. Good. Well, gosh, Stacey, I so enjoy talking with you, and I thank you for taking time out of your busy day, and I hope somehow we replenished a little bit of you today because you are an excellent guest, and I so enjoy our conversations.
I enjoy them too. Thank you very much for having me.
My pleasure. So I hope that you'll come back soon, and we'll talk about relationships, why they work, why they don't, why some do, why some don't, and why we sometimes choose not to have them at all.
I'm an expert.
You know,
I'm an expert.
When I was going through my coaching, and after I got my certification, I wanted to pick a specialty, you know, kind of like how doctors do. And I was thinking maybe marriage, you know, maybe that would be good. And I opened up my jewelry box, and there were 3 wedding bands in there, and I thought, maybe I should do divorce.
Yeah, there you go.
I am an expert at getting through that.
Yeah.
So good.
Or you're a hopeful romantic.
Right. So any parting words for us today?
Oh, man, I think I already talked enough. I think your viewers are probably tired of hearing me. So
I don't
just
think
go
so.
for it. Have fun.
Very good. Okay, Stacey, thank you so very much, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. You have a good day.
Thanks.
Bye.
Wow, that was so good. I really like her. Stacey Blanchet. You could find her on Facebook. I I put her Facebook information on saying that she was going to be on with us today. And wow, what a lot of stuff we talked about. I love it. I took notes so I could put it in the summary. You should probably listen to this show again because